you've seen her on The Blaze or on your Facebook feed, Tomi Lahren is one of the hottest rising stars in conservative media and social media right now. So everyone, please welcome Tomi Lahren. Tomi, welcome. You flew in from Dallas just for the occasion. So, wow, you're 24 years old. You are just a rock star in the conservative community right now. But your social media following, you have 4.3 million followers on social media. Each of your videos are viewed an average of 5 million times. Why do you think you've resonated with so many people?
I think, in large part, I represent middle America. So you've got the two coasts, and those individuals seem to kind of just talk to each other. And then you've got all of middle America right there that's dying to have a voice. They don't really feel like they have one. They're not represented, beyond their communities. So I think they watch me and they say, well, she speaks like I do. She thinks like I do. She seems to maybe get it like I do, and I think that's why it's resonated. And also, I do something very different. There's not a whole lot of young conservative women out there, and so I provide that for a lot of young women. They don't have that.
Yeah, you told me in the commercial break that you always knew that this is what you wanted to do, but you're just 24. Do you feel like people discredit you because you're so young?
They do, but then I remind them that I'm sitting at the table with folks that are far older than me, and I'm here at 24, so I'm doing something right. Something that I'm doing is working.
Now, Tomi, far older, please, let's not date us.
Not really.
Okay.
Talk about Bill Maher.
Okay. So no, you're only 25, so come on.
Yeah.
Okay, just started to feel old.
Let's dial that back personally. But let's talk about your voice, and let's talk about some hot topics, because that's what we do here. President Trump's travel ban 2.0, this is the second one, was blocked earlier this week. 6 federal judges now have said that it's unconstitutional. But you support his plan. Are all those judges wrong?
I believe so. I don't believe it's unconstitutional. They're going with the Establishment Clause, but I think folks fail to also remember that the Establishment Clause in the Constitution doesn't cover non-citizens, A, and B, he is under his, and I think you can maybe attest to this as well, it is under his jurisdiction to be able to do this. He is able.
But didn't he shoot himself in the foot when he said a Muslim ban? Come on.
But this isn't a Muslim ban. This isn't a Muslim ban. Well, no, unless all the Muslims in the world have been able to pack themselves into 6 countries, this is not a Muslim ban. For a Muslim ban, India would be included. It's a high Muslim population. So, to me, this isn't a Muslim ban.
Does it bother you that he leaves out like Saudi Arabia where he has a business?
No, I agree. I definitely think Saudi Arabia should be included. I do. I agree with you there, Joy. That's maybe one of the points we can have agreement on.
Celebrate right there. A little cool guy.
To her point, though, I think part of the issue for me was that his rhetoric during the campaign, when you say stuff during a campaign like, you want to ban all Muslims, or you use this broad terminology, then when you go to introduce policy, I happen to support this 2.0 as well, but when you institute policy that maybe doesn't do that, people look and say, well, what was the intent of this policy looking back? If you said X, Y, and Z over here, why are we not to believe that now this policy is intended to, in fact, ban Muslims, what you said? Is that not his biggest issue?
I think that it is. I mean, for Trump, rhetoric is usually the problem, and it's usually the basis of the problem. But I like to look to policy more than just talk. And when we're talking about campaign promises, wasn't it President Obama that said, if you like your health insurance, you can keep it? I mean, think some things.
No, one thing he said, and they keep bringing it up over and over again.
But what about
Trump says something crazy every day?
What about the fact that Giuliani, because I think it was a slip in the administration when Giuliani spoke out about that, but when he said, he came to me and said it was a Muslim ban. How do you remedy that?
Here's the deal. We have to be honest. I'm someone that's made a career on being very honest. To say that we don't have a problem with jihadists torn in countries that are, Islamic faith dominates those countries. To say that that's not a problem would be to completely miss the real threat at hand. We have to name the enemy. That doesn't mean all Muslims are the enemy. When we look at these 6 countries, we can see they have a serious problem with terrorism. They have a serious problem with extremism, and it's Islamic extremism. We need to be honest. If we can't be honest, we're going to continue to chase our tails, and Americans aren't going to be safe, and Muslims are not going to be safe.
Let's talk a little bit. If we can move on, we have some investigations that are potentially going on right now. And I'm someone who supported investigations into Hillary's emails, into Benghazi, into the IRS targeting conservative groups. I'm sure you were on board with those as well. But now you have an investigation of the Trump campaign and his potential ties to Russia. I also think that that's a valid investigation, given that we know that his campaign had contact with Russian officials last year. That was at the same time that Russia, we know now, was in fact trying to interrupt our democratic process. Do you support this investigation as well into Trump's potential ties to Russia?
I support an investigation, but I support the investigation into wiretapping claims as well. I think if you're going to investigate one, you need to investigate the other. I think that that's only fair, and I also think it's important to point out that President Obama's CIA,
Trump.
but I'm talking about President Obama's CIA director.
Yeah.
He came out and said, "I see no ties, I see no collusion here." So when President Obama was a Hillary supporter,
Republicans said that too.
right? Well, when Obama's acting CIA director comes out and says, "I see no evidence that there's ties,"
There's no evidence of wiretapping either.
But that's why we should investigate both to the fullest.
For me, the difference is that for wiretapping, there really is no evidence for what he's saying right now, in my opinion. But when it comes to the other issue of the ties to Russia, there was a lot of communication. There were several people in his campaign. I'm concerned for me. I don't care who the president of the United States is at the time. I'm concerned about protecting the democratic process. So for me, there is a big distinction between those investigations. Because one is more
investigated, and that's where we can agree. I think both need to
But
investigate.
they cost money. They
yeah.
cost money. So if you're going to investigate it, I want to know that I want some reason for the investigation. Otherwise, I don't want taxpayers on the line.
All right, let me ask you this question, because we're running out of time. We are a show about women, so we talk about women's issues a lot, and mostly female. Although we have some lovely men here today. So I would like to ask you, woman to woman.
Right.
Is it difficult for you to support Trump as a leader when he treats women so poorly, the things that he said about women? Remember that horrible tape, the Access Hollywood tape? I won't even repeat it, it's so gross. And not to mention the things he said about Megyn Kelly and about Alicia Machado, all that stuff against women.
You know, if we go back to the campaign, which is the most this took place, I looked at the things that President Trump said, I look at the things that Hillary Clinton did, and I had to weigh them. But I did, but now we're talking about now.
What did she say that was so horrendous towards men? Towards men.
You know, she stayed married to Bill Clinton, so would she give him a pass then? But beyond that,
He's seen as a sign of strength to pursue through the vow of marriage.
Tommy, don't you believe in love?
of course I do, but I want to get to your question, because this whole Trump is anti-woman thing, I just don't buy it. Because if he was so anti-woman, why did he select a female to run his campaign? If Kellyanne Conway had been a Democrat, you all at this table would have been applauding her, singing her praises. So if he doesn't like women, he's anti-woman. I don't think he would have selected a woman to
That's like
run
saying
his
all my
campaign.
best friends are Jewish and being an anti-Semite. It has nothing to do with
I
one.
trust women.
No, I think there is something to say. You're putting your money where your mouth is. Putting your money where your mouth
So his
is.
rhetoric doesn't bother you, but let me ask you this: you call yourself a conservative Republican and a constitutional conservative, but you also consider yourself pro-choice, which is interesting to me because 68% of conservative Republicans think that abortion should be illegal across the board.
No, I'm pro-choice, and here's why. I am a constitutional, someone that loves the Constitution. I am someone that's for limited government, and so I can't sit here and be a hypocrite and say I'm for limited government, but I think that the government should decide what women do with their bodies. I can sit here and say that as a Republican, and I can say, you know what, I'm for limited government, so stay out of my guns, and you can stay out of my body as well. So I think it's...
You need to go out and speak to women about that.
I know, I do every day. I do every day. And, I get a lot of attacks from conservative women as well. I think it's
unusual.
equal hate from all sides for me.
Tommy, I told you that we wouldn't bite. Everybody,